Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. I'm Leonard Jacobs, Interim Executive Director of the Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning. I'd like to welcome you to Through Art, Pulling from the Past to Shape Our Future. This is the culminating event of the first year of JCAL's Building Equity for Immigrant, Indigenous, and Native American Artists program. It's a pilot project funded through your community trust. For its very generous support of this program. Program, so it will continue. In addition, I'd like to thank the Core Council. This is a group of 9 artists and arts administrators who have conceived, developed, and produced all 9 events that you're going to see during this festival. And most remarkably, COVID has done an amazing job. And on behalf of all of us, staff and board at JCAL, I thank every member of the Core Council for their work. That's the business. The JCAL is running a fundraiser. If you look just below, you can see a link. This fundraiser is to coming up in February. Our interim artistic director, Courtney French, has programmed February with 7 events, I believe. If you click on the link, you can read more about them. We are halfway toward our goal. 100% of donations go to the artists that are involved in these programs, not for admin. Ask for your support. If you have any questions about anything, please always feel free to reach out at cal.org. And now, pass it off to our interim artistic director, the visionary Mr. Courtney French.
I'm Courtney French, Center for Arts and Learning. Welcome. Welcome to our presentation. We would like to thank you and your family for joining us today. Enjoy the program.
All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Seems to be some technical difficulties. My name is Tecumseh, Nindishenzi Tecumseh, Ninon Gie, Motherwalk, Wampanoag, Blackfoot, Hello, everyone. My name is Tecumseh. I'm greeting you from the Motherwalk people, the people of Long Island, Brooklyn, and Queens. My principal tribe is Matinecock. I'm Turkey Clan. I'm also Wampanoag and Blackfoot. And today we have the great opportunity of seeing a documentary that holds close to my heart because it highlights elders from one of my tribes, the Shinnecock, and it's called A Thousand Years of Witness. And we want to thank JCal for providing us with this opportunity, and the Equal Equity Committee for also providing us with this opportunity. Today we have the producers of the documentary. This is one part of the series. We have Bryan, Ginew, and Alli, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Starting with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Bryan Downey. I am a photographer / cinematographer from Liverpool, England, but live very close to the Shinnecock Reservation in New York. Over to you, Ginew.
Hello, my name is Ginew Benton. I'm an Ojibwe, raised on Shinnecock territory. I've lived there since I was about 8 years old. So the Shinnecock people raised me, and my father's Charles Kellis Smith, and my mother is Sherilyn Blakey Smith. And glad to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alli Joseph, and oh, look, Bryan brought a friend, and I have hooligan children upstairs jumping around, so my apologies if there's noise. Oh, someone just said, ow. I hope they punch each other. In any case, I am a member of the Shinnecock Nation, and in Southampton, New York, where all of our elders featured in the film live and were raised, and I am a producer, journalist, aside documentary filmmaking, across digital and broadcast, as well as an on-camera host. And I'm happy to be here today. Thanks for having us.
All right, and with that, we're going to do a showing of the documentary, and then afterwards we're going to have a talk back. So if anybody has any questions after watching the documentary, please feel free to put it in the chat.
You must be very special people. You are very special people, because I've always resisted showing this spot. I've always felt this was a very, very, very special, indeed sacred spot that was not to be shared beyond Shinnecock. There was a big conference going on in Rio, and some of our tribal members wanted to have a filming from here, have a conference and a concert really from here. And I protested, and they're probably still mad at me. I just felt this was too special a place and too beautiful a place, and a place that, yes, people would, having discovered this place, people would forever take it as a movie set. And I didn't want it to be a movie set. I wanted it to be our special place. Creator had given us this opportunity to call this little place ours, even when others have their places they call theirs. But we could take care of this and just save this. Save this, have something really special where we could pray in calm. And then as time went on, I thought about it more, and I said, you know, part of the view depends on the behavior of people on the other side of the water. It doesn't, we get to honor that we get to walk here, but we only get to see that Creator has given us the waters. But what about the growth on the other side? It still looks pretty good. So if you can, go to the water every morning. Let it cleanse you, let it clear your head. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Be joyful. Be strong and do the good work.
Akwai na tampia. Bijiki na bawit na dasawis. Bijiki and Doram. A Shinnecock na witche. Medeba winning na Metawak ni. My name is Standing Buffalo. I am of the Buffalo clan. I'm a Medewan man, a Matawak man from Shinnecock. It is said, when an elder dies, a library burns with them. Within Western culture, today's native youth have become increasingly distracted. Now more than ever, it is important we adhere to what we as a people hold sacred. We are making an effort to listen to those who we revere most, in hopes to share and preserve their memories in history.
Hello, my name is Dorothy Dennis. I was born on the Shinnecock Reservation. I've been here most of my life. And when I had mentioned being taken away from my parents when I was about 10, 11, we Indians were still wards of the state then. We were not federally recognized until just recently, the past couple of years. And they would send doctors and nurses to examine us children, give us vitamins. And they told my mother and father that they thought I was sickly.
My name is Ed Terry, Running Deer of the Shinnecock Indian Nation. I was born and raised here on the reservation many years ago. We had our good times, we had bad times. But those were times that we would never give up, and we would never regret. We lived here on the water, our people lived on the water. We made our living on the water. We got our food from the water. Today, we still do the same things. It is important to us that we keep our culture alive, and so we revert to the old ways in some ways. We must never forget where we came from, and for our youth today, where we must go for tomorrow. While we were coming up, I had a great friend of mine, a very close friend we brought up together here on the reservation. His name was Tree. We called him Tree because he was so tall. He was taller than any of us. So that's how he got his name. His name was Michael Lubin Hunter. We lost him about a year ago. We miss him dearly, think of him every day. In our journey, we continue in our ways. We know that he would want us to go forward, do our best. And so we do these things for him in his memory. Let's keep him alive and keep all of our people that have passed on. We keep them alive in our memory also.
How do I look on camera? Good?
Oh, shit. You have no idea.
Oh, please.
You look incredible.
Huh?
You know what they say about Shinnecock.
What do they say? There's a whole lot of things they say. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the main one. Yeah. Okay, my name is Reginald Wright. I'm 70 years old. My family name out here on the reservation, Shinnecock Indian Reservation, is Smith. But my fondest memory I have of coming out here when I was a teenager or a kid. Going to the powwows and spending the weekends out here at my mother-in-law's house. And my biggest fear about being out here was going to the outhouse. I don't want spiders be biting me. And we would see the big duck on the Montaukett Highway, and we knew we was almost in Shinnecock. And we was jumping for joy because we was getting fresh air. It was like a summer camp. This is home. This is where my heart is, basically. This my mother's heart is, for sure. She always wanted to come back home, and she did before she passed. When I was younger, all the roads was not paved, so there were dirt roads, and the cars would go by and raise up the dust. And I thought, well, I'm in the country now. And I wake up in the morning to see on the stoop was the milkman had left his bottles of milk. You don't get that in the city. And Entenmann's. You had to go to the supermarket to get those Entenmann's. I have 4 children altogether. My oldest is 50, even though I don't look that old. Okay, there you go. The photograph that I'm going to show you is my mother's grandmother. Her name is Camilla. And she had like, what, 12 kids or something like that, I think. But it was a very small house. I was like, I don't know how all that fit in there. But my mother, she grew up out here. She went to school out here. And she almost got wiped out in a hurricane back in the 30s. They had left them out for school, and the tree fell just as she was going to the house. So, I mean, like, that was terrifying. She will never forget that.
Well, my name is Margot Thunderbird, and I am sitting here at home on Shinnecock by our wave fire. That's Women Against Violence Everywhere.
And my name is Jennifer E. Cuffy Wilson. This is a very special fire. It was started about 6-7 years ago. by my sister Becky. Well, I'm a very honest person, so I have to be honest. When I was growing up here, it wasn't really a very happy time for me. Um, I wasn't happy out here as much as I was at Utopia, which is what my father called his allotment. And I kind of found myself when I was in high school. I found out the kind of person I wanted to be, and I liked the person that I was, and I still like the person that I am today.
Now, my situation was a little bit different because I was a summer kid, which meant that during the winter, my family and I lived in Riverhead. And on that last day of school in June, we packed up the car and moved over here for the summer. So that's where I spent every minute of the summer over here. And so that was a real good time for us because unlike living here in Shinnecock where everybody was Shinnecock, I lived in Riverhead where nobody was Shinnecock but us. And there was one or two other families, but that's all. And we had to come over here, which is only 17 miles away, but seems like a world apart in terms of culture, world of difference. And like Jen said, powwow was the highlight of the year because for me, it was the time of year when we could be ourselves. And we could wear our traditional clothes, we could eat our traditional foods, we could see other natives, we could dance, and people came to see us at Shinnecock. So instead of being put down, people coming up and going, ooh, and stuff like that, we were being appreciated for being Indians. People paid to come see us dance. And for 3 days, we were who we are. But then and that had to hold us through the other 360, how many of days there are in a year. Because Powwow Monday, was the saddest day of our lives growing up. Because you knew it was over. Even at the first, and before Grand Entry, when we did the first welcome dance of Monday, you knew that was the beginning of the end and everybody was getting ready to go. So that was a sad day. We had to be out of here because school started on that Wednesday. But the important thing about powwow for a lot of the families was they had money to buy school clothes, from selling their this and that's at their stands. So powwow was part of the economic cycle of Indian life too. We had what was summer vacation Bible school. Now, this isn't a particularly happy memory, but it's what we did. And we had to come to the old schoolhouse every day. And I'm not quite sure how the church put it together, but it was absolutely a church thing where they got all the little Indians together to learn all about the Bible. We learned how to sing Jesus Loves Me in Navajo. As Everett likes to do. I'm too young to fly in the infantry. Shoot the artillery. It's some Christian stuff. Shoot the artillery. I'm in the Lord's army. Anyway, there was shades of indoctrination and assimilation tactics on the reservation. Snack was kind of the antithesis to that because we realized that we needed to bring our own culture back to the people and share that with the children. And, we would hear comments like, oh, the poor dear little Indians. And we would get dono boxes for the poor deer. We called them poor deer boxes because for the poor dear Indians, and you never know what would come out of them boxes. I mean, there were dresses and pinafores. These were cast-offs from the big houses out there. And, oh, the little lady who sent these bathing slippers. I remember plastic shoes for going out in the water, bathing slippers. And the little girl who gave you her bathing slippers so wanted a little Indian princess to have them. I mean, you don't even know how to feel about that when you're a kid. And when you look back on it, you still kind of don't know how to feel about it. But all I can say is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it sure did, because we're strong today and having survived our childhood between two cultures.
We held an elders gathering at the Shinnecock Museum, and all the elders were sat at the end of the table, and the door opened, and Harriet walked through the door in her traditional dress with her cane, and the entire room lit up, and she didn't say anything and just walked through, and everyone gave her place at the table, and she sat like a queen. Princess Starleaf.
I didn't know my Indian name.
Walking through the Cat Brothers, crawling underneath the trees, all that. Used to do all that when I was young. My name is Walter H. Wise Jr. I was born on the reservation. Went to school on the reservation. I did a lot of things in the Army. Marched about 24 times. And won 20 of them. I'm James H. Phillips from Southampton. Born in the Southampton Hospital and grew up on Shinnecock Racing till I joined the Army. Joined the Army, I don't know what year it is now. I can't remember.
And did you guys ever get in trouble together?
No, not too much.
Did you guys used to cheat back in the day? Cheat?
Cheat?
Cheat, like, you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we used to get in the woods and holler. Yeah.
Can you do one?
Help! I can't holler now.
Can you do one, Walter?
No, I can't. Voice is gone.
Somebody's always driving by. When are they not driving by? See, in the old days, you used to know who was driving by before they even got here because everybody's car had a different sound.
Hello, my name is Linda Hunter. I'm 67 years old. I'm a member of the Shinnecock Indian Nation. Currently residing on the territory, but I didn't always reside here. I was born in New York City. I was raised in the Bronx, but I've always maintained my connection here because my family was here, my grandparents were here, and I used to come out every summer like clockwork and run these roads. I spent a lot of time on Little Beach Road because we used to hang out at the Eliza house. I also used to spend a lot of time on Church Street because my father's family had a house there that they called the Crow's Nest. And, not the Crow's Nest, I'm sorry, that's his sister's house, the Bird's Nest. And if you ask anybody around here, everybody knows about the Bird's Nest because that was a hangout spot for the boys. I used to spend a lot of time just kind of being with my grandmother. She was a domestic like a lot of the families out here. She was a sweet lady, but she couldn't cook worth a damn. Ask anybody. Everybody knows about Granny's concoctions. We also used to ride out bikes to the stores around here. Across the highway, across 39, where you'll get killed if you ride a bike out there now. But the pace was so much slower back then. It was like only two lanes, one going east and one going west, and there were very few cars that used to come out here then. My grandmother would send us kids to the store. We always came back in one piece. I am thankful for being born and raised out here at the time I was, because I think the kids miss a lot of just being a part of a community where you really knew people. I mean, they know each other kind of from school. We also spent a lot of time with our elders back then, and we gained a lot of knowledge from them. I try to do that with my grandkids, trying to teach them as much as I can about the culture and about life here on the reservation, and should really be thankful for what they have and try to hold on to it for the future and for their children.
Yeah, those are those fancy chickens. Yeah.
Chickens.
Yeah, I've seen those. Hello, my name is Gloria Smith. I'm 86 years old today, August the 28th. I was born into a large family. I've had a beautiful life. I've had ups and I've had downs, but mostly life has treated me very well. As a child, I remember my older brother, my oldest brother, died when he was 12 years old. In those days, they always had children have their tonsils out, and he had his tonsils out, and after he came home, he got an infection in his throat. And in those days, they didn't have as many antibiotics as they have now. And he had meningitis, and he passed away. And I can remember beautiful things in my childhood. I can remember seeing seines out in the water. The fishermen would be out there fishing. I can remember looking around Shinnecock and hearing echoes of people's voices calling their children, because then there wasn't any trees like it is now. It was all flat land. I had a beautiful marriage. My husband was a house mover, and he was a very good father and a very good husband. And he died when he was 62. And my oldest son also passed away from cancer, from the same thing my husband died from. But life has still treated me very well. And there's always ups and downs in every life, and we have to accept what comes. So I don't know what else I can say except I'm happy.
How old am I? 117. 102.
You say 117, Mr. Hunter? I don't know. Okay.
My name is Reuben Walter Hunter. I'm 102 years old. I can run a mile. Well, that was easy because we had to walk everywhere in those days. Then when we was able to go caddy, well, that was another thing we did, up and down the hills. So we was used to running and walking. So that was a great thing to me, to run from here, Shinnecock, up to Southern High School, and snap. What we did in the summertime, we went to caddy out at the Shinnecock Golf Club. And so we used to play, and so at that time, there was not that many houses on the reservation, so you could bring your golf stick home. In fact, if I can remember, we only had 13 big occupied houses by families when I was a boy going to school down here. Southampton was just a small village then, and it was a rich man's village. And so that was a work for us kids as caddies, and we got $1 to carry a bag. And that was a big dollar. Now, if you made $7, carried 7 bags during the week in the summertime, you made a lot of money. And if you didn't make any money in summertime and save it and buy those things, you was in bad shape. 38, boy, that was a big storm. And the fact is, people from Southampton would come to Shinnecock because we had the old pump wells. You know, you make you dig up your water right out of the ground. And in the town, the people's water wells, they was broken up, frozen up. So people would come up there and I could make $1 selling a glass of water back in those days, but we didn't sell it, we just gave it away because we had plenty of water up here. We had the old-fashioned water pumps.
So you invited the people from the town of Southampton when they had no water. You invited them to the Shinnecock reservation so you could give them water?
Oh, we used to take, Oliver Keller's everybody had horse and wagons back in those days. And Oliver Keller's would take a barrel of water and take it up in town and give it away. I didn't go into any kind of a black outfit at any time while I was in the service. I was American Indian, and I went in as American Indian, and I said, well, why segregate me? This is America, and if you want to segregate people, that's your business, but I don't segregate myself from anybody. And that's it.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. My name is Jason King. I'm 6 years old. I'm from the Shinnecock Reservation. My grandma Dorothy is an elder. I listen to my elders.
Why do you listen to your elders?
Because I'm good.
So will you be an elder when you grow up?
I don't want to.
You don't want to? Why not?
Because then I'll be in a wheelchair and I won't be able to play.
Hey everyone, this is Ben from JCal here. I just wanted to let you all know before we move on to the Q&A segment that, as you could tell, unfortunately, we were having some technical difficulties with the streaming service we were using. As it is with these things, it was working all weekend, and all of a sudden today it decided to not work. So just wanted to let you know that the audio itself sounds great, but that it is in the documentary, and I think we're going to be posting some comments in the chat to let you know where to find it so you can watch it in full. And now we will go on to the document, or we're going to move on to the Q&A segment. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, we apologize. Unfortunately, in this world we live in, technology doesn't always work the way we wish it does. But I'm really thankful to have you all here. And I know that at the end of the film, there is a section for one of the elders who had passed away. And I know that Shinnecock actually just recently had 2 elders pass away that I think are both in the film. So do one of you want to acknowledge them as well, or would you like me to?
You go ahead, Alli. Can you hear me, Alli? No? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, most recently, Harriet Gums had passed away, Starleaf. And actually before her, we also lost, help me out here, Ginew, Walter Weiss. He was one of the 2 elder gentlemen that were together in the old folks home. So they had now both passed away. And as I say, most recently we lost Starleaf Harriet Gums. And that was last week, literally. So 3 out of the 12 elders have passed.
And then, if I'm wrong, Ginew, didn't Philip pass this week?
Yes. And Aunt Gloria, in her segment, she was speaking about all the losses that she had, and since this was filmed, she lost another son as well. So and especially this year, how it's been going. And yes, we just I can't recall, is Uncle Phil Harriet's son as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lance's brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And he passed due to COVID, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge those elders who we've lost, and thank you for making this film, because I think a lot of times we don't get to capture any of our elders' voices. And I think it's really important that people spend time with their elders, because they have so much knowledge, and often you have to really sit with your elders for a long time to get anything juicy per se. And I know I've sat with elders and had questions, and they're like, nah, come like 3 more times and I'll answer that question. And they kind of just tell you what they want to tell you at the time. But I know that in having this film, there's things that I've learned from these elders that, I've spent time with them at the fire and different stuff and haven't heard those specific stories. So I want to thank you all for making this film and showing people the importance of spending time with your elders and really honoring the elders in this film by not just giving them a voice, but letting them speak to something that most people don't know about. Most people, will never have the opportunity to ask an elder that lives on the reservation what it was like growing up on the reservation. Young people, we often think things are like how they are right now. But we know that there's a lot of history and difficulties, and it's important to look at our past to know where we're going to go in the future and where we are right now. So thank you all for that. And I guess another question would be, what was your favorite part of making this documentary?
When Alli, jump in there. Alli, can you hear me?
I can, yeah. I'm watching the chat, make sure I can hear and everybody can hear me. Hello. I think, as a personal and family historian, which ties very closely, obviously, to the work that I do as a documentary filmmaker, it's really vital, as you say, to get elder stories, because it certainly, in and outside of the Native community, storytelling is matrilineal, and there isn't enough, in my opinion, of an emphasis on saving family stories, particularly elder stories, for future generations. So it was really a gift to work with Bryan and Ginew here to do this for our people, as I've been pushed to do this, within my own family by my late mother, who was have been a matriarch of the tribe. Were she alive today? And so my favorite part was really just hearing some of the childhood stories of our elders. And when I do family history work, well, my favorite folks to interview are always nonagenarians and centenarians, because they can present stories of life that children today won't even find credible, you could say, because the experiences are so different from what theirs are. Anything from having obviously no telephone and no car, to things like where you got your food and how you got water, or where you went to the bathroom, like Reggie says. And I agree with him, those sprickets and crickets, I would have a hard time using out house. So it really is very heartening, and in my experience, the best part of doing this work, to hear these folks share. And also I would say it's so vital to encourage elders whenever you happen to have an audience with them, because as you say, sometimes they say, I'll come back 2-3 times, right? And I'll tell you next time. And then they feel put on the spot when you say, oh no, look, you can just tell me right now. But that in itself is so important, right? Because we never know, as Ginew just mentioned, unfortunately, how long we or they have. And so when you have an opportunity, even if it's in these COVID times now, to gather to the folks watching with your family, even if it's a smaller grouping than it might have been in another year, I can't stress enough how important it is to try, when everyone is sitting together, maybe they loosen up a little, to start recording those stories as folks are sitting there real time, because you may never get another opportunity.
Ginew, do you want to go now?
Mute myself. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So I mean, my favorite part, of course, being and I don't really know if this has anything to do with being raised traditionally, but we did have a matriarch household, and I did grow up where we were in that traditional family structure, where we were raised by our grandparents. Growing up on Shinnecock, I was, I'd get on the bus and come home to my grandmother, and I would spend the time with my grandmother as my parents worked. And this is how it was, and this is how a lot of us grew up. And it took me back to that time of being able to sit with everybody that I loved and cherished, and being able to interview them, and then also hearing stories that you probably didn't hear as a child because you were too young to be exposed to some of their stories. And I know as you get older, they do loosen up and see you as an adult, and you start to know more information, personal information. And, it was this documentary could have been hours and hours and hours with the amount of information our elders were able to speak about during our interview time. And, in some cases we'd have to cut them off, and we'd sit there not really knowing the time was going by because they were so engaging in the conversation. And it brought me back to that when I was a little kid, being able to sit there and have a moment just to have them speak and to listen to them. So that was my favorite part, is just that nostalgic feeling of having an elder speak and being able to sit there and listen to them and learn things you haven't heard before. And I know with Bryan, a lot of that was, of course, absolutely new because it was a new situation for him. And, it's a very good experience. And again, yes, you don't know how long we have, and the blessing of this documentary, one of the things that I wanted to do was interview my father one day and go and do that. And I just lost him as well. As you can see at the end, I lost my brother, as well as Bryan lost his brother last year after completing this film. And of course, my father was being protected in the home that he was in, and that's where he eventually passed. But, luckily I was able to have his voice on the short film that Bryan and I did, Looking Glass, as well. But it would have been nice to be able to expand this into that realm. And unfortunately, we can't do that now. And Bryan has this wonderful saying that he always includes. So you want to share that saying with us about the library and what that means?
You've got to unmute yourself, Bryan.
The quote of 2020, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, actually, I saw that particular tagline, which we did put in the beginning of the documentary. When a elder dies, a library burns with them. And, the whole thought of that just resonates. It's such a beautiful line. And that's exactly what we wanted to do here, was to preserve any memory. But getting back to your question, which was what was my favorite part? My favorite part was probably the very first interview, because I felt that the Native community were actually accepting me to be with their fathers, grandfathers, and mothers and children. And taking a photograph is one thing, but to physically be in the same space, in the same time frame, and work with them, and then be relaxed enough. So I think the support that I had from the Native community was probably my favorite part of the whole thing. From the start to the end. They have legal teams. We had Alli, who wanted to make sure everything was above board and documented, and cross all the T's and dot the I's. And Ginew was the guy that was there with me most of the time, because he knew everybody personally, and he had an in with a few people that we really needed on this. So again, the trust, because if one person would have said no, they probably all would have said no. So it was wonderful that they were able to kind of share the vision that I had in just recording and documenting the elders, because this all started once Tree, the person who was mentioned in it, he passed away, and everybody was so sad that he passed away, and I totally get it. But that was the biggest regret, was not physically starting it in time to get his thoughts, even though he actually visited my house a few times. But that would just be quote unquote. What a wonderful gentleman, what a really nice guy. And I thought that a wonderful relationship was cut short for me, a potential relationship, because I really clicked with that guy. And as I say, when he passed away, that kind of put me into another gear of, okay, we missed Tree, but we cannot miss anymore. So I put the idea over to Ginew, and a month or two later, Alli kind of jumped in with us, and we'd already done a few, but Alli got us some of the most important interviews, especially the first one, Margaret Smith. That was a great one. I enjoyed it all, seriously, but it was the trust for me.
What was some of the feedback that you've gotten from the Shinnecock members that have seen this? And was that a showing, or did they contact you directly? Alli, did any of your cousins contact you and give you feedback?
Yeah, I would say, my hat is always off to Bryan for his one take style in this film and his devotion to that. And I'm sorry, I couldn't hear through a little audio, so I don't know if you mentioned that Bryan is a signature of this piece in particular. But yeah, people had a really positive response to it. And one of the small things that I did to contribute to this work was helping to get some of the more reticent elders to participate who, as is often very common, folks in the Native community will know, as in other cultures, that it's not always considered, it's certainly not traditionally wise to give your voice and your visage to video to be preserved, like in photography. So for any photographer, and especially somebody who's non-native like Bryan, it's a little bit of a Sisyphean challenge, right? To get certain folks to feel comfortable with him and to trust him, and so that was something that I was able to help a little bit with some of the more reticent elders, to say, look, this is going to be a wonderful thing. And then, of course, once they had been filmed and photographed so beautifully, their minds were completely changed. So yes, I did hear very positive feedback overall about the work here, which was really gratifying because, these guys put so much into it. And I was really honored to be able to support, because, there's a lot of creatives at Shinnecock, actually. There's a lot of us who are producers and screenwriters, creatives, but it's so important that the voices get out there of these elder stories, because as we're seeing, folks unfortunately are gone one by one too soon. So yeah, it's been really wonderful to hear folks' response to it, and clamoring to be included if there would be a next time. Because once you set an example, I don't know if everyone can hear me, but once you set an example, right, a positive example for something, people start to understand the intrinsic value of this kind of preservation, even though it is modern. And so that's why, as soon as we can find our way out of pandemic times safely, to travel and to capture more of these indigenous voices across Indian country, which of course all of America is, right? That will be wonderful, to continue and to make this a really strong series of voices that otherwise will not be heard, because of course, even during the recent election, there were all those memes, right, about other, right? So the Native folks are always considered something else, right? That's what it was, something else. And so we're still here and have voices, all over these now United States, and folks' voices, especially the elders, should be heard. Someone else? I don't know if there's a delay. You know me, I'll just keep talking for hours. Like that's what, but this is not about me.
Well,
So.
I wanted to touch on that one thing that Alli did mention, was we'd made a decision to not be taxing on the elders, because as you see, 102, 97, we wanted to do things as efficiently as possible. And I just had the idea that we need to do just one takes with one camera. There was only one scene where we used two cameras. And it actually worked. You know, we gave everyone 15 minutes. Some people went on and on and on, but, you know, in the editing, it was easy to put it all together. But we didn't want to steer anybody in any direction at all. We let them create and just kind of, not create, but to just whatever was going through their mind. I don't think we actually talked to anybody or egged anybody in any direction, other than we knew that Lubin was going to talk about golf because he was a golf addict and still to this day is, I believe. So we did do that. And once we started the golf conversation, it went golf all the way until the hurricane, of course. But other than that, you know, and obviously the child at the end, Jason King, you know, she was kind of fed lines a little bit because kids do freeze up in front of the camera. But I did not tell her to say what she said. Whatever she said was in her mind. And just the fact that she didn't want to be an elder because she didn't want to be in a wheelchair, she wanted to play. You know, that was it. The second she'd said that, I knew that that was the end of the movie right there. You know, a nice positive note from one of the younger ones. Not positive in the sense of, you know, preserving history, but it was a nice, natural, organic ending to a movie, I thought. Go ahead, Ginew.
Yeah. So, Tecumseh, any other questions?
Yeah, I want to encourage people on Facebook, if you comment on in the YouTube, we can see the comments and we can ask those questions. But in the meantime, I can ask another question. I know that Alli and Ginew talked a little bit about some of the extra footage and stuff, and I'm wondering, is there any ideas for some of the stuff that didn't make it into the film, like, what are you guys thinking of doing with that? Have you thought about maybe making like a library for people on Shinnecock to see it, or is there any ideas with what you're going to do with stuff that didn't make it into the film?
Really quickly, going back to a previous question, and I think the question was directed towards Bryan, but the impact that the film had on the families and being able to have this. When
James Phillips.
Yeah, when James Phillips passed, we had the footage for the family members who hadn't seen him in a while, because he was in the care facility. That was probably the biggest impact for me personally about why this project was important. Because once James had passed, we were able to show the family the footage, and they were able to see their grandfather smiling and speaking, for those of people who didn't get to make it. And in moments like that, it's you know, as I was saying, you know, my father passed, and, you know, I was told to come out, and I didn't make it in time to see him before his passing, you know. And it's one of those things where, you know, I'm grateful for the things that were captured of him, you know, before his passing, so that I was able to see that. You know, it's not the same, but that feeling that you get, the words that are relayed to you, the photos that are taken. You know, we had a Zoom meeting for my brother's memorial, and I was able to see him through that. And it's just using this technology And I think that's why it was important to be able to start this documentary with that little bit of information about the way the world is going and how it is that we're having a disconnect and how it is that technology like this is going to be able to bring a little bit to people that otherwise wouldn't be there in any normal circumstance today, because this way of life just really distances us from who we are and what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And I think if we continue to do this, if this way of life continues the way it is, you know, it's going to be very important to capture our elders and be able to relay their information for those of us who miss out, who are unable to be there. So that's kind of what I wanted to add in there.
Yeah, that was a really emotional moment for everybody, and I received emails and Facebook notifications through Messenger from the direct families of the Phillips family, and the messages were in such gratitude. You know, people were telling me they were crying while they were writing to me because they haven't seen their grandfather in a year or two, and this just put us into a new gear that, you know, we knew that the importance of this, and we would not stop until we had this thing done. There was no hiatus with this particular piece, and because it's a relatively small reservation, when you do something bad on the reservation, everybody knows it, but when you do something good on the reservation, everyone knows it and remembers it. So we had more people lined up to be a part of this once James had actually passed, and we showed that footage because we were still 5 or 6 elders short, and we had no problem getting people to be on board because they'd already heard from it from either the Phillips family or just word of mouth. Word about the importance of it. So, and you know, you'd said about showing the extra footage. We can make the footage available to anybody. You know, in this world of technology, we can, and we're more than willing to do that. Primarily for the Shinnecock, I think, not necessarily for public eye. But you know, the intention, the long-term intention, is to make a larger, you know, all the way across the states. 1,000 Years of Witness will take some of the Shinnecock, will take some of the Navajo. I just spent time on the Navajo filming them just before the pandemic. And, you know, being invited to go back there, being invited to the Cherokee, being invited to the Lakota. But while this pandemic is in force, you know, this is the only hiatus we're in, and it's a forced one. You know, we would be there filming right now, guaranteed, if it wasn't for this pandemic. So, and I think we want to make a bigger, you know, we may do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes. I don't know. We can't, you know, we really can't determine what we're going to do. We're just going to keep going as long as it's good and as long as people want to see it, I guess.
So we have 2 questions or comments. It says, can Ginew talk a little more about himself and his role in the tribe and his upbringing? And then we also have what's next for documentaries with Bryan Downey, and these are from the Kingdom Dance Company. So I don't know if did we answer those? I think Bryan just kind of mentioned about what it is that we're going to be doing next for documentaries.
Yeah, so I think it just answered it as the question came up, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know if I have a role in the tribe per se. One of the things I'm asked to do a lot, even though you know, I was brought up there my whole life, so Shinnecock is my family, and it is my, you know, adopted tribe and clan per se. And you know, one of the things I'm asked to do is be a cultural enrichment coordinator, because I was brought up with some traditional knowledge. I'm asked oftentimes to relay that to children, and you know, that's primarily what what I enjoy doing. I do like teaching, and I currently kind of work with Bryan as well. We have some projects that we're working on right now, but that's basically it. Yeah.
How about the Youngbloods?
Oh yeah, well, powwow season was canceled this year, so we haven't really done anything, you know.
All right, let's see. Do we have any more questions people can ask in the YouTube chat? And in the meantime, is there anything that you all feel you would like people to know about the documentary or the process, maybe that wasn't in the film? Is there anything you want to share or you think people should know?
I think personally that even though we used professional equipment and recording equipment and professional producers and yada, 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 I do believe that people should record their own grandparents. They should, you know, iPhones have great audio. They should set up a nice little thing by the window, get some nice light, and interview them. You know, get it documented. And you never know. I mean, maybe in the future we'll be able to get hold of some of that footage and some of those interviews and use it in our project. But you know, anyone and everyone, especially if you're on lockdown and if you are allowed and permitted to go from household to household, then everybody should do this. This is not something that we invented. It's just something that we wanted to do as a collective. And as I say, in this world of technology, that is, all the kids are all as savvy on it as can be. It could be a wonderful thing to see other people's interviews of other elders. And we did actually ask the elders to give us photographs from their closets. So we were dusting off some really, really old photographs, and combined with the audio and the video of them talking, it's very powerful, you know, especially if it's them that's in it. So my 2 cents would be, anyone can do this and everybody should do this, native or non-native, but primarily native, I think.
And I would just add to that was Bryan. We often, I think the 3 of us bounce off each other and have some of the same ideas concurrently. As a personal and family historian, it's really, I can't urge people enough to do what Bryan just said, which is go into your closets, in your basements, in your attics, and the places, the absolute worst places to keep archival photographs and media that are irreplaceable of your elders and you know, folks in your family who perhaps were immigrants, and digitize those, and so that if something happens to your originals, you aren't stuck with nothing, because that's really all we have. And I'm not an archivist per se whatsoever, nor am I a genealogist. I'm an oral historian. But when I work with clients outside of the documentary space to make movies for their, you know, families privately, much as we've done here, that is one of the first and most important things I urge them, because then you have no visual history, right? And if you don't have anyone left orally to say, you know, you need the younger people who may recognize folks in the pictures to substantiate, you know, where you have come from. So please, please, please pull all of those documents out of humid places and overly dry places, or places where there could, you know, they could be damaged by, you know, mice or something like that, you know. And again, if and when you gather this season or sometime soon, please use your phone, your smartphone. You know, obviously they all have an audio feature, just like video, and it doesn't have to be formal. Just make sure that it's, you know, somewhat quiet. There's not a lot of background noise, and get them talking, because you never know how much more time you have. And that's really vital, I think.
The effectiveness of that is easy for me to explain, because every single photograph that was in that documentary that was archival, every single photograph was photographed with my iPhone. I mean,
which is amazing, right?
And I just have an iPhone 6 or 7. I just put a light on either side of it so there's no reflection, point, shoot, that's it. And now they're digitized. That's how easy it is. Really not a big deal.
And to that point, I just want to encourage people that if they are going to ask either their parents or grandparents or someone that's not part of their family to do an interview, make sure you bring a gift, because that is our cultural protocol. And a lot of people don't realize that. Bring a gift, and even if the answer is no, you still give them that gift, because that's good cultural protocol and practices. And you don't want them to think that you're just doing it, just asking them, and that's the only thing you want from them. I want to encourage people to also spend time with the people who they want to interview, besides with the interview. I've heard that a lot from elders, that they don't want to just hear from us when we have questions. So we want to be mindful of that. All right, Ben, can you pull up a question? All right, cool. Thank you. All right, so this question is asking Alli if you can share a little bit more about your work, and do you have anything focused coming up on about Shinnecock?
I'm unmuting. Sorry about that. Sure. I'm happy to say. I mean, unfortunately, as with most people in the past 8-9 months, I've been limited in what I can create in group situations. So I have not been shooting anything at Shinnecock, but I do have some ideas about reflective pieces that may come out of this pandemic. And if you're looking for another doc that you can probably find online, and I don't know when they're going to show it next via PBS, but was a producer on Conscience Point, which was an independent lens film that came out last year, which I worked on over 2018, and sort of after finishing that, hooked up with Bryan and Ginew for this to help them complete this. And it is a full feature documentary about a lot of our tribal members who are seasoned activists who've been fighting for more years than we can really count. I mean, I can count, but who are devoted activists who've been fighting to protect our ancestral lands from overdevelopment by folks buying land in the Hamptons who have no idea that they're native burial grounds. And if you don't know a lot about indigenous life and heritage and our cultural values, then it's a really good place to start, because it weaves into the narrative through the voices of a lot of Shinnecock tribe members, really what has happened to Native Americans throughout this country, historically, in terms of land rights, land removal from original land. The Shinnecock have been on our original land for well over 10,000 years, which many people don't know. And so unlike a lot of other indigenous people in this country, we were never removed from the Stony Shore. And so there's a lot of history in this particular place, in and around Shinnecock, and frankly, all up and down Long Island, that is that's really vital in the telling of that particular story. So I'm kind of sitting tight and not enjoying it like a lot of people, but as soon as things are safe, I think we'll be able to roll forward on a couple of other projects.
All right. Well, we are coming to an end. But before we go, I want to just, I guess, ask a few quick questions. My first question would be, how can people follow your work? I know that on Facebook, if people look up 1,000 Years of Witness, there is a Facebook page. But how can people follow your individual work or film work that you would like them to follow?
Well, I did just want to say, yeah, the 1,000 Years of Witness page will be updating, as we have new beautiful photographs as Bryan wants to share them, and also, clips from the subsequent films. And so we do try to share updates when we have them, and also, certain sound bites, certain relevant pieces of any kind of legislation that's happening. We've kept it non-political, certainly, and completely relevant to the film thus far, but hopefully we'll be able to add more to that so folks can find the film page on Facebook.
Yeah, I will definitely add the link to that page, the Vimeo link, and I will change the password setting to no password needed. So, but that just take me like 30 minutes or so. I have to get ready for the city in a minute. Ginew, talk about what you're doing.
What I'm doing or what we're doing? So we just released a trailer for a child Native American superhero film that Bryan and I are doing at the moment. It's a really great concept, I think, and it got us very motivated. We really got lucky with some really great kids to be in the movie. They were kind of shy at first, but now they're kind of opened up and they understand the characters, especially since we've cut the trailer and we're able to show them, they're kind of getting the concept, so it's easier to work with them, taking direction and everything. So it's kind of a really cool idea. So I'm hoping that we can get some funding to be able to finish the film. But if not, we're just going to keep plugging away at it. But keep our fingers crossed because it's getting a lot of good.
What's the name of the film?
So the film is called Iron Shirt, The Legend of Oglemaza. And Oglemaza is the Iron Shirt, and it's based off of legends that we have in our history of warriors that were said to be, bulletproof, impervious to attack. You have accounts of U.S. soldiers that would talk about these soldiers that we would have, these warriors that we would have in battle, that were quick and unable to be touched and, possess strength and whatnot. So bringing that into a modern setting, I thought was a really great idea. Bringing that into a modern day and how the idea of a warrior today would even be brought to the table, and how the innocence of children would be able to affect the mindsets of the adults that live today. That's kind of the concept.
That's awesome. Can I share that link with people?
Yeah.
All right, I'll put that in the...
Yeah, it's public now.
You should put Looking Glass also in the link in the 1000 Years of Witness, because it's the same crew. It's the same director, it's the same producer, it's the same cinematographer, it's the same location, right? Don't you think?
Beautiful Shinnecock. Yeah.
And if at all possible, Alli, if at all possible, to get the link for Conscious Point also, and we. I don't know.
That's
I don't
a little
know.
bit.
Is it on any platform yet?
Pardon me?
Is it on any platform yet?
It is made available. You have to go through the distributor. So unfortunately, that film is not free. And I was not the director, so that is out of my hands. If it were up to me, I would give it to you all. But that has a distributor, and it's not readily available. But it can be requested to show at educational institutions, I think either for free or for a very small fee. So if people are interested in that, and if you go to consciencepointfilm.com, I believe it's .com, there's information there on how to contact Trevor Wormfeld, the director, if you're interested in showing it at your school or at some other kind of community organization. or to a different tribe, she will be happy to speak to you about that.
All right, and I think with that, that pretty much wraps up our program. I want to say to Botany, it's really great to see my aunties and uncles, and just learn more about our Shinnecock history and culture. I think no matter how much time I spend with my Shinnecock cousins, it never feels like it's enough. Whether I'm on Shinnecock or Puspatuck or visiting some of our other sister tribes, it never seems like there's enough time. But it's really special to be able to see ourselves on film. I think it's really important for adults and kids to be able to see themselves on film, because we spend so much time watching TV and movies. So to Botany, to all of you, and Ben, is there a wrap-up video for this program? Okay. And we also want to encourage you to see some of the other equal equity programs that JCal is doing. And I just want to, something that we've also been doing is one of our brothers on the Equal Equity Committee for JCal actually passed away from COVID. So we want to acknowledge him and his contributions, Kevin Tarrant, to the Equal Equity Committee, because he was one of our members, one of our 9 members that passed away. And so we want to just, acknowledge the contributions that he did. This was a program that me and him had talked about doing before he had passed away as well at JCal before this whole COVID thing happened. So I just want to thank everyone, say Inishi, to Botany, to everyone for coming to our program. And I really hope that everyone stays safe, wear your mask, 6 feet distance if you can, sanitize, and have a great weekend and a happy holidays.